You didn't stumble upon this by accident. There's a reason you're here right now. If you're reading this, it's because you've faced an unfair attack. Someone, or maybe even a group, has lied about you to block your progress in relationships, career, or personal growth. But this isn't just a coincidence. You're one of the chosen ones, destined for a higher purpose, and that's exactly why they came after you. They saw your potential before you fully realized it yourself, and instead of celebrating it, they tried to shut you down with deception. But remember, their lies can't hold back what's meant for you. God has already laid out your path, and no amount of sabotage can derail His plan for your life. The obstacles were meant to test you, not define you. And while they thought they were winning, they underestimated the power guiding you. You were marked from the beginning, long before you even realized the power you carried within. They saw it, like moths drawn to a flame. But instead of basking in the glow, they wanted to snuff it out. Your light unsettled them because it reflected back everything they lacked: strength, resilience, and purpose. You may not have been aware of it at first, but your mere existence became a mirror, and they hated what they saw in themselves. Their words and actions, like venom, were never random. They were calculated, designed to sink into your core and dismantle your confidence piece by piece. They lied, not because you were weak, but because your strength terrified them. They wove their falsehoods like thick, choking vines around your progress, hoping you would never see the sunlight again. Every word they uttered against you, every rumor they started, was an attempt to strangle your potential before it could fully bloom. The sharpness of their jealousy cut deep, not because you provoked them, but because they could not stand to see you thrive in areas where they felt small, inadequate. In their minds, your success was a threat, an affront to the mediocrity they had resigned themselves to. They wanted to see you stumble, to trip on the path that was meant to lead you to greatness, because watching you fall would make them feel, if only for a moment, superior. They couldn't stand the way people were drawn to you, the way you moved through life with a quiet power that didn't need to be shouted from rooftops. It ate at them, gnawing at their insides like a beast that can never be satisfied. And so they lied. They poisoned your relationships, planted doubt in places where there should have been trust. They built walls where there were none, hoping that you would crash into them and give up. It wasn't enough for them to witness your downfall. They needed to be the architects of it. In their minds, if they could control your narrative, they could control your destiny. But what they failed to understand is that destiny doesn't bend to the will of those fueled by envy. Their insecurity was a wildfire, burning uncontrollably, desperate to consume everything in its path. But what they failed to grasp is that wildfires, no matter how fierce, eventually run out of fuel. They believed that by dimming your light they could somehow make theirs brighter. But a light born out of malice and envy doesn't shine. It flickers weakly in the darkness, starved of the very source that sustains true brilliance. Their attempts to control you were driven by a deep-seated fear, fear that you would rise above them, fear that you would expose their own inadequacies just by existing in your fullness. You were never the problem. You were the solution they could never find within themselves. They wanted to cage you, to trap you in the confines of their own limitations, because seeing you soar reminded them of their clipped wings. In their minds, it was easier to sabotage you than to face the harsh truth of their own failure. And so they set out to undermine you, like termites gnawing at the foundation of a house they could never hope to build. They whispered lies behind closed doors, casting shadows where there should have been clarity, distorting reality to fit their narrative. The lies they wove with such care have now become the very chains that bind them. Every word they spoke to tarnish your name, every deceitful act they orchestrated to break your spirit, is unraveling in front of their eyes, wrapping itself around them like a tightening noose. They thought they could alter your fate, turn the tides of your destiny by smearing your truth. But the lies they scattered like seeds have taken root in their own soil, blooming into a poisonous garden that they must now harvest. The hardships they wished upon you, the pain they hoped you would endure, have returned to them tenfold, because divine justice never forgets. What they didn't understand is that the universe is a mirror, reflecting every action back to its origin. When they sowed deceit, they triggered an unstoppable chain of events, a divine boomerang that now returns to them with force. They thought they could outrun the consequences, but there is no escape from the spiritual laws they've violated. The energy they sent out, filled with malice and spite, has circled back, knocking the wind from their lungs. It clings to them now, like a shadow that grows darker and more oppressive with each passing day, making it impossible for them to hide from the truth of their actions. They cursed your name, hoping that it would burn in the minds of others, but now it is their own name that carries the stench of betrayal. Their attempts to isolate you have left them standing alone, cut off from the very circles they sought to manipulate. They spread rumors with the precision of an archer aiming for a bullseye, convinced that they would hit their target and watch you crumble. Yet as they aimed, they didn't realize that the arrow was curving in mid-air, destined to return and strike them where they are weakest. Their financial stability, their relationships, even their peace of mind, all unraveling like frayed threads, because no one can build their success on the foundation of another's ruin. The ground beneath their feet, once firm with the confidence of their lies, has begun to crumble. They thought they could plant the seeds of chaos in your life without consequence, but the soil was never theirs to control. Their greed, their need to manipulate your path, has only led them into a pit they dug with their own hands. Now they find themselves slipping into the very abyss they wanted for you, grasping at anything to break their fall. But there is nothing solid left for them to hold on to. Their attempts to cast you into darkness have instead left them wandering in a shadow of their own making. But this is more than just poetic justice. It is divine law at work, a force as ancient as the stars themselves. God's hand ensures that the scales are balanced, even when the process seems slow, even when it is unseen at first. Every action carries weight in the spiritual realm, and those who harm the innocent will feel that weight come crashing down on them. They thought they were clever, that they could operate in the shadows, but God sees all. He saw their plots, their schemes, and he warned them to stop. When they ignored his warnings, when they continued to play with the fire of deceit, they sealed their own fate. Now they walk through life with the weight of their choices pressing down on their shoulders, heavier with each step. The financial abundance they once enjoyed is slipping through their fingers like water, impossible to grasp no matter how tightly they try to hold on. Their personal relationships, once manipulated with lies and half-truths, are fracturing under the weight of their deceit. What was once theirs is now being stripped away piece by piece as the scales of justice tip against them. Their spiritual gifts, if they ever had any, are crumbling, turning to dust. For those who misuse the gifts granted by the divine, there is a steep price to pay. They thought they could manipulate, control, and harm without consequence, but they have triggered a spiritual reaction that cannot be undone. Their connection to the divine is severed, like a cord that has been violently cut, and they are left adrift in a sea of their own making, without guidance, without protection, without grace. While their so-called gifts are turning to dust, yours are only getting stronger. The obsidian inner circle, forged in partnership with Astral Atom, is where the elite chosen ones gather to dominate the spiritual battlefield. They thought they could manipulate divine power. Now look at them, cut off and drifting. Meanwhile, you're stepping into a power they could never handle. In the inner circle, we don't play small. Our spiritual ascension is designed to make sure you don't just hold on to your gifts, you weaponize them. While they fall apart, you're rising higher, sharpening your connection to the divine, and mastering the very powers they tried to exploit. You're not just surviving, you're thriving, untouched and unbothered by the chaos they've unleashed. They've triggered a reaction they can't undo. But you're untouchable. You're in control. In the inner circle, we don't just talk about power, we live it. This isn't for everyone. It's for the chosen ones who know they're destined for something bigger, something bolder. Join us if you're ready to step into the arena and claim your place. The obsidian inner circle is where power belongs to you, and nobody's taking it away. The link is in the description. If you're ready to leave the pretenders in the dust and ascend like never before, step into the inner circle now. There are those who were once granted spiritual gifts, powers meant to uplift, to heal, to create light in a world often overshadowed by darkness. These were individuals who had the ability to manifest abundance, who could see beyond the physical and tap into the realms of the unseen. But instead of using these gifts to elevate others, they twisted them, bending their sacred abilities to harm, to control, and to tear down those like you, those chosen by God for a greater purpose. Their downfall was inevitable, because when you misuse what is divine, it will eventually slip through your fingers like sand, leaving nothing but emptiness in its wake. You were the target of their manipulations, their selfish attempts to use their gifts as weapons. They thought that by channeling their energy into blocking your path, they could stop what was divinely ordained for you. But what they failed to realize is that spiritual power is never meant to serve the ego. It's not a currency to be spent on petty vendettas, nor a tool for tearing down those who walk in the light. Every time they harnessed their gifts to harm you, they broke a sacred covenant, an unwritten law that governs the spiritual realms. They may have believed they were invincible, but now the walls of their false kingdom are crumbling, and the gifts they once wielded with arrogance are being stripped from them, layer by layer. You see, spiritual gifts come with responsibility, a responsibility to act in alignment with the higher laws of the universe. When you misuse these gifts, you don't just offend those you aim to harm. You offend the divine source itself, and the divine source does not forget. These individuals in their blindness thought they could use their abilities to alter your destiny, but all they've done is alter their own. The spiritual well they once drank from has dried up. Where once there was abundance, now there is scarcity. Where there was clarity, now there is confusion. Their connection to the divine, once so potent, now feels distant, like a fading echo in a vast empty canyon. They may have been able to manifest before, wealth, influence, control, but that ability is slipping from them now, dissolving like a shadow under the midday sun. No longer can they summon what they desire, because the very source of their power has turned its back on them. Their arrogance blinded them to the fact that spiritual gifts are a sacred trust, not a personal tool for manipulation. They have violated that trust, and now they are paying the price. Every gift they took for granted is falling apart, fragmenting like shattered glass, impossible to piece back together. They once walked with ease in the spiritual realms, but now every step they take is heavy, as if they are moving through quicksand, sinking deeper with each passing day. Their intuition, once sharp and precise, now fails them. Their ability to see what lies ahead has been clouded, as if a thick fog has descended upon their minds. They used to speak with confidence, believing they had the power to shape the world around them, but now their words fall flat, powerless, and devoid of any true influence. The doors they once opened with ease are now closed, locked from the inside, and no amount of force will pry them open again. You, the chosen, have walked through shadows that many would not dare enter. The trials you faced were not random. They were divinely placed obstacles, designed to forge you in fire, to mold your spirit into something far stronger than it once was. This path you walk is not one of ease, but one of immense growth, where every wound is a mark of transformation. The darkness you encountered was a crucible, a flame that seared your soul, but it was never meant to consume you. It was meant to burn away the impurities, the doubts and the fears that clouded your vision. You are now stepping into the light, a light that was always within you, waiting to be uncovered beneath the ashes. Healing is not optional on your path. It is a divine requirement. You cannot step into your true power while carrying the remnants of pain, betrayal, and suffering. Those scars, though they have shaped you, cannot dictate your future. They are markers of where you've been, not where you are going. Every layer of healing you allow yourself to experience is like shedding an old skin, revealing a new, more resilient version of yourself. This is not the healing of surface wounds. It is the deep soul-level restoration that can only come when you confront the darkness head-on. You know this because you've already begun to feel the shift within you. Every time you release the weight of past hurts, you rise higher, closer to the person God intended you to be. The trials you faced were not meant to break you, though they certainly tested the limits of your endurance. God allowed those moments of pain, not out of cruelty, but out of love. Like gold refined in fire, you had to be tested so that you could emerge stronger, purer, and more aligned with your purpose. The suffering you endured is now the very thing that will elevate you. It has carved out spaces in your soul for greater blessings to take root. Each tear you shed watered the seeds of growth that are now starting to bloom. The darkness you passed through was not the end, but the necessary tunnel you had to cross to reach the light on the other side. God's wisdom surrounds you now, more intimately than ever before. In your healing, you have opened yourself to divine guidance, a clarity that was once clouded by pain. You are not just learning lessons, you are being transformed by them. With each wound that heals, your spirit grows stronger, more attuned to the subtle whispers of the divine. You now see the signs you once missed. You hear the guidance you once doubted. You are no longer wandering aimlessly. You are being led step by step towards your higher calling. God's presence has been with you all along, but now, as the noise of pain fades, you hear it more clearly, like a quiet voice rising above the chaos. Your healing is not just for you. It is the key to unlocking the full range of your spiritual gifts. These gifts have always been within you, but they were buried beneath the weight of past wounds, waiting for you to clear the debris. Now, as you heal, they are awakening, one by one. Your intuition sharpens, your ability to manifest increases, your spiritual vision, once blurry, now becomes crystal clear. This is the divine reward for your endurance, for your willingness to face the darkness and come out the other side. God is not just restoring you, He is elevating you, bringing you into alignment with the full power you were always meant to wield. But this power is not for selfish gain, it is for divine purpose. You are called to be a light in a world that often prefers the darkness. Your healing has given you the strength to stand firm in your purpose, no matter the storms that may come. You are a beacon now, not just for yourself but for others who are still trapped in their own shadows. Your wounds have become your wisdom, and that wisdom will guide others out of their own pain. This is the sacred exchange. You heal, and in doing so, you become a healer. You stand on a higher plane now, not because the world suddenly became fair, but because you chose to rise. Every trial, every betrayal, every lie spoken against you was meant to crush you under its weight, but instead you used each one to build a foundation stronger than the one before. Where others would have withered in the face of such adversity, you absorbed it, letting the hardship refine you like steel being forged in fire. You listened when the pain spoke, you learned when the world tried to deceive you, and you grew when everything around you wanted you to shrink. This conscious decision to evolve has set you apart, elevating your spirit in ways those who sought your downfall can never understand. Their actions, steeped in deceit and envy, were meant to clip your wings. But wings touched by divine purpose cannot be chained. While they wasted their energy trying to manipulate the narrative, you chose to rewrite your own, guided by a wisdom they could never touch. Their attempts to block your path only served to strengthen your resolve, sharpening your instincts and deepening your understanding of the spiritual forces at play. You aligned yourself with truth and grace, and in doing so, you aligned yourself more deeply with God's plan for your life. Every time you chose growth over bitterness, every time you chose healing over vengeance, you reaffirmed your purpose and magnified your gifts. In stark contrast, those who lied about you are now buried under the weight of their own choices. Their refusal to seek redemption, to acknowledge the wrongs they committed, has bound them to the very darkness they tried to cast over you. Divine justice doesn't forget, and their actions have caught up to them like a shadow growing longer and darker as the light fades from their grasp. They are stagnant, unable to grow, because their souls are tangled in the web of their own deception. What they once thought was clever manipulation has become the chains that bind them, heavy and unrelenting. The lies they spread have become a prison, and no amount of willpower or control can free them because they refuse to confront the truth of their actions. Where you rise, they fall. You move forward with the wind of divine grace at your back, while they remain locked in the storm they created. It is not a coincidence that their lives feel constricted, that their opportunities are slipping away like water through their fingers. They are trapped in a cycle of stagnation, spinning in the same place because they cannot evolve when their hearts are closed off to growth. They refused the path of redemption, and now that refusal has come with a cost. Their choices have distanced them from divine grace, isolating them in the energy they tried to use against you. While your gifts have flourished through hardship, theirs have withered in neglect. You took each blow and used it as fuel for your ascent, but they chose to wield malice as a weapon, and in doing so, they dulled their own potential. The spiritual power they may have once possessed has slipped from their grasp, as it always does when abused. They can no longer access the flow of divine energy, cut off from the very source they once thought they controlled. The universe has a way of balancing the scales, and now those who sought to diminish you find themselves diminished, unable to manifest even the simplest of their desires. The contrast between you and them is striking, a living testament to the difference between those who walk in truth and those who dwell in deception. You have embraced growth, aligning your life with spiritual laws that honor justice, healing, and grace. They remain anchored in the toxic energy they created, unwilling to release the chains of their own making. While you are free to soar, they are bound to the ground, unable to break free from the consequences of their choices. Divine justice is working in your favor, even when you cannot always see it. Trust that God's plan for you is not just survival, it's thriving. The blessings that await you, the peace that fills your spirit, are not accidental. They are your birthright, the reward for your resilience and your refusal to fall under the weight of their lies. Your path is illuminated by divine purpose, and no matter how hard they tried to obscure it, they could never dim what was placed in you by God Himself. So continue forward with confidence. You are not merely enduring, you are ascending. Each day you choose to heal, to release the weight of the past, you rise higher. Their downfall is already in motion, and it is not your burden to bear. Their choices, their consequences. Your focus now should be on the greatness that is unfolding in your life, guided by divine hands that will never let you fall. Now, it's time to share your story. Let others see the power in your resilience, the light in your healing. Speak your truth so that others too can break free from the shadows cast upon them. There is strength in your voice, and it deserves to be heard. Let the world know how you rose above what was meant to destroy you, because in your story, others will find their own strength.